Hello, and thanks for joining us on this month's Mark IV Battle Report on Tried and True. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel and keep up to date on our BatRep and podcast releases. If you would like to support the channel directly, a link to our Patreon can be found in the video description below. Our match today was recorded using the 2024 Steamroller Rules Scenario 1 Recon. On a mission to secure a desert oasis is the army from the Western Reaches led by the Fury of Halak, Xerxis. This 100-point prime skorne army is being led by returning Maryland Warmachine player Ryan, also known as Rai Rai. Welcome back. Please tell us about the list you brought today.
Hey, glad to be back. For this battle report, I decided to bring something that, Erica said it best. It's a little bit of a meme. I wanted to just bring as much dumb big stuff as I could, and so I thought a good jumping off point was to bring Xerxis in skorne. So I went ahead, brought Xerxis 2. He's the big battle engine caster. Underneath of him, I needed some more big guys, so I brought both a desert hydra and a mammoth. Point-wise, that's the majority of my army. Also, battle group related, I have Basilisk Kreia, hoping to use her animus to buy me some time, and then a Titan Gladiator to maybe get some speed, and then Malik Karn just to do more damage and do the things that Malik Karn does best. And then outside of the battle group, I don't have any solos, anything like that. I just brought 2 units of Pain Givers to help try and buff up the damage and try and help with that fury management. I also decided to bring the command cards of Hit and Run, Infiltration, Power Swell, Savagery, and Sentry Duty. And I think Sentry Duty definitely could do some work to help not help ignore the concealment, cover, all of that stuff. So that's the list I brought, and hope for the best.
Also looking to take the strategic oasis for themselves is the Army of Storm Legion, led by Captain Athena DeBarro. Their 100-point army is being led by returning Signar player Rick. Welcome back. Please discuss your choices going into the game.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back. So today we'll go ahead and bring back a favorite of mine, more so recently than lately, is Captain Athena DeBarro. Her battle group consists of 2 strikers. They have the same loadout, except one has the voltaic hammer and the other has the voltaic halberd, both with the relentless charge head and heavy mag bolters. I also have 2 coursers, same configuration for both: shield guard head, heavy storm thrower on the right arm, voltaic punching spike on that left arm. I have Alexia, Queen of the Damned today, with 2 Legionnaire officer solos, a unit of Arcane Mechanics, 2 units of Storm Lance Legionnaires, a unit of Storm Guard Legionnaires, and 2 units of Tempest Assailers, bringing a lot of pretty heavy infantry to capitalize pretty heavily on Athena's feat there. For command cards today, I have Blessing of the Gods, Careful Reconnaissance, Infiltration, Old Faithful, and Sapper, just in case my opponent has defenses.
Can Xerxes, along with his mighty gargantuan, stop Signar's advance across the Bloodstone marches? Let's get to the table and roll off.
Alright, so here we go. What's going on, Rai? So...
I think we were just trying to figure out, establish the rules of what each piece of terrain is here.
Yeah, so we're pointing out in the middle of the table the forests, the water there. Left-hand side, we have 2 things of quicksand, which I gave to you graciously. Right now, we are measuring out with the new Steamroller packet for Recon. The flags can actually mark a zone, quote-unquote, or a piece of terrain that can be scoreable, so that's what that 5 inches is. So the flag starts at its starting position, and then we measure within 5 inches to go ahead and choose where those flags will go ahead and go.
Yep, so I set my flag to be the wall up at the top end of the screen, and I think you selected the wall closest to you there.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. So in the middle of the board, we still have a 30mm and a 20mm. The 30mm can be controlled by warcasters or leaders and solos, and then the 20mm cache in the center of the board there on opposite player sides can be taken by a model by using its action to pick it up to score that. And then we kick it off into your first turn.
Yeah, my first turn, I remember you said at the table, you're like, man, it takes a lot of time on your first turn just to move, like 5 models. And you're right, when your model count is so low, each move, it's like a little bit more pivotal of like, this needs to be placed exactly where I need
Absolutely.
it. I don't have as much wiggle room. So I moved Xerxis on up to the wall. I know a wall isn't going to do anything for me as a huge base, but I figure I feel safe anyway.
Sure.
And then, just a matter of trying to remember order of operations of how to throw things out. I think off of Xerxes, I threw the Titan's Rush Animus onto both the Hydra and the Mammoth, which left Xerxes with 1. The Rush Animus just gives +2 speed and Pathfinder, just to, really make them fast, because, that Hydra under Xerxes goes to a base speed of 9
Terrifying.
once the Animus is on it. And the Mammoth goes to speed 8 under Xerxes once that Animus is on it as well. So, getting things moved up the board that are that big, that quickly, I think is, intimidating, I think.
You see where they're standing? Yes, it's intimidating.
And then, I just moved everything else, for the most part, is going to move pretty much behind everything else that I just moved up. I think I moved the Kreia up, and I toss out her Animus, which gives a bubble coming off of her, where everything in her bubble gets, I think a +2 defense against range. And I think that bubble is within 3 inches of her. And then just move Pain Givers up just to kind of have them in the mix. And then pass it on over.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that also is that the Desert Hydra has its Animus up also, so that I lose that 3 inches of movement. Or not movement, the range on my guns, yeah. Which was a big deal, because I was kind of hoping to maybe soften something up a little bit on the approach, but we were kind of measuring it out. And even with me needing to use, I don't have Pathfinder on my jacks unless I'm charging, so I have to, with the reduction in speed plus my range minus your range debuff to me, I can't make any shots on anybody this turn. So I have to kind of play a little bit more timidly so that I don't just get, I guess, bodied off the table rather quickly. Most of my models are pretty tough, like the Assailers, as they just moved. They got desperate pace from each of the solos, and then kind of ran into place. And Cavalry's moving up, kind of being into place. Like, these guys are armor 18 with 5 boxes each. The Assailers are armor 20 when they're base to base with each other, with 5 boxes as well. So I'm kind of hoping on that their boxes and the armor can help them enough. And then my jacks, kind of the pivotal point of most of my list, kind of only move up enough so that your Mammoth's not going to be able to aim. The Hydra's going to have to come up pretty far if they're going to want to do anything. I make sure that my jacks are getting base to base. I get Athena in base to base, making sure that I have all the armor up that I can have, because I am expecting a turn of a lot of guns coming my way, in hopes that I survive enough to have a decent retaliation against anything that you might throw at me. I do swing this unit of cavalry fairly wide, in the hopes that either number 1, you ignore them because they're too far on the outside of the board, or number 2, you just go target them, and then that's stuff that's not going after the core of my army, which is fine by me. I go ahead and get Alexia a little more center, and just so that in case I need to bring people back, she has the ability to do so.
Yep, and then I think, at this point you've clocked it over to me, I believe. I had to go get a large
Yes.
base proxy. Because, when you're dealing with nothing but huge bases, you need that tool.
100%.
In order to get a good idea of where things are going, especially the Mammoth, he's pretty much overhanging every portion of that base. So it's hard to even get a good measurement of I think he can get here. You have to lay down the sticks and really, get into that.
Yeah, it was.
And this
was really fun. It was really fun during this turn, watching and understanding like the huge base dilemma, quote unquote. Everything that you had is terrifying, and you were making a lot of comments about how much time is used on this turn that we have going on. But it, again, like you said at the beginning of like the whole thing, is everything has to be precise. It has to be utilized in the exact way to get everything that I can out of it, because losing even one model is a huge swing in these kinds of games if it's not given the output that it needs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Everything has to be so meticulously placed and thought out of, okay, if I go here, these are my targets. If I go here, these are my targets. And like, then try and think of what that target should be, what's more worth it. And then, even small stuff like this, it was like, okay, I can get within 3 of these horses, and then within spray range of your heavy jack, and, just trying to think, and then even positioning of the sprays coming off of it. Like, I might be able to hit that other horse in the back, the one that's kind of sitting down and to the right of the wall there. Maybe I can lane one of the sprays through that. So it's a lot of really kind of planning. And when you only have, what feels like 5 models on the table.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, every little bit counts.
But it was all completely, like, I didn't feel like, because if you capitalized with each of these models appropriately, which is exactly what you're pushing forward on, it can be terrifying, because like, how are you going to deal with, like, how many boxes between just the 2 of them? It's like 130, something like that.
So Desert Hydra has 55 boxes.
Okay.
And Mammoth has 56 boxes.
Okay, so it's over 100 boxes to deal with in just those two models.
Right. Now, granted, those 2 models are eating up about 55 points of my list. So that is that's the bulk. Yes. But that's a lot of boxes regardless. And then over here, I was trying to plan out what to do with that Mammoth, and if I could get a good placement on it, and, where he was with where the wall is, which is the flag. I couldn't really get a good landing spot over there. Because I did think of the idea of trying to get over there, clear out those horses, and that glob of infantry you had behind that terrain on the top end of the board. I was like, I can drop all these AoEs into that and maybe just blow up that cluster. Because that cluster, they're very strong by themselves.
Yes.
And at any models I could get off the board would be worth it at that point.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out also with the scenario, because like you were just talking about the flag over there on your wall, the fact that the scenarios can be quote unquote customizable dependent on the terrain, if that scenario is in play because of these flags, is super interesting. Because if you really wanted to, like, you could have a flag farther back or farther forward or more to the side, or like it's going along with your game plan for your list. So I think it's really interesting.
Exactly. So there, I finally, used all the movement on that Hydra. I'm pretty sure I enraged it off of those pain givers that I moved up, and went ahead, stepped over the wall, and started trying to get some hits in. And I'm fairly certain,
really well.
I'm fairly certain I may have also thrown Rapport on that Hydra, so that it could use Xerxis mat, which is 8, because I didn't want to risk not landing the hits that I needed on them. So I was like, any little bit can help, and I think I did feat this turn, which, in retrospect, I don't know if I should have, but at the time it felt like the right move because I wanted these things to land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hit that defense 13 on those on the cavalry is it makes it the dice swingy enough that you needed just that extra little bit more to make sure that you could clear those guys out.
Yeah. Because Desert Hydra, its base mat is 6, which isn't anything to scoff at. And then under feet, it probably would have hit, adding a die, dropping the lowest. It probably would have been fine. But yeah, I just didn't want to risk that. And now I'm figuring out what to do with this Mammoth, and I decide to place it up the board as well.
Some sweating.
Yeah, for what seemed like a good reason. And then I think I rolled to see how many shots I get, and I think I got 4 in total.
It was 3 or 4, yeah.
Or no, I think it was 3. I think I rolled a 4, and then it's +1. So D3 plus 1.
You scared the crap out of me the first time when you were talking about it, because you're like, yeah, it's D3 plus 4, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like D3 plus 3, and you're like, holy crap, how come everybody isn't playing this?
He's like, no, +1, +1. I was like, okay, oh god.
Yeah. And so, I ended up trying to pop some of these shots into there. That shot, it's a range 14, so great range on it. It's a power 15 with an AoE of 2 and power 8 on the blast. And so I thought, that might be enough to maybe knock some of them out, which, I think I got 2 of them out, maybe 3.
You got 2 of them.
So nothing too crazy. And then I decided, I think I popped a shot or 2 into that jack.
Yes, there were 2 shots.
Athena there.
2 shots into the heavy. One, the heavy took itself, but then the other one I shield guard onto the light behind it. So you just didn't almost completely scrap the entire jack. I do have mechanics, but I got to spread the damage out.
And then I moved the Kreia up to the wall just to have something at that wall. And then just for general fury management, I needed to move up the pain givers, and I think it's condition. It's like a range 6. I can pull or add focus to a war beast, so I went ahead and pulled the focus off of that so that I didn't screw myself over too bad.
Absolutely. So this is definitely a feat turn for me.
This devastating feat.
Yeah, I removing that head just so I could get decent positioning, see my angles and things like that. I definitely had to push for using a lot of my time now. Also, due to the fact that you had to use a lot of time on your turn, pushing through to figure out how am I going to make some of this work, because I'm going to be greedy and I'm going to see with Athena if I can just drop both of these. Because that is a huge swing.
Yeah, I remember when I passed turn. One of the first things you said was, "Oh, now I'm going to have to use a lot of time on this turn."
Yes. So I start off with the mechanics. They're always really easy to kind of use at the beginning. They go ahead and get the Empower onto the 2 heavies, which basically fill them up because of the accumulator that is along with the striker chassis. And then the third mechanic repairs some of the damage on the top striker, because that gives me my armor-piercing gun back. That was crippled due to the shots from the mammoth. So, first thing out of my combat activations is I believe we go ahead and get started with my my strikers, just because they'll be able to make attacks with the focus that they have, and then because Athena had racked up Jackhammer, with her feet she'll be able to give them the additional dice and things like that to go ahead and go after the gargantuans. Previous turn I did have Electrify on the striker with the hammer, which is the one that just charged now. So he gained accumulator and used that focus to charge into the mammoth, doing a little bit of damage into it. And again, I'm just kind of buying into just as many attacks as I can
was
have.
That under the Hydra?
Oh, I'm sorry, the Hydra. Yes. And then I think we were dice +1 because he's an armor 19.
Armor 20.
Oh, they're armor 20, so it's straight dice.
Yeah. But getting that feat spike really helps.
Well, this part wasn't the feat, so all that damage right there that we can see on your phone is just what the striker was able to do because of the hammer that was power 20 on my hammer. So being able to have that straight dice was really good. And then we go ahead, there we go, second striker, same thing, accumulator, which gives him the ability to charge. Reckless charge head allows him to go ahead and charge through the forest and all that kinds of stuff, because on top of the whole thing, I can still see both of the gargantuans because of the rules that they can't hide behind the forest, etc. And then so this striker goes into the mammoth. We go ahead and make sure that dual attack works out well for us to also get that armor piercing shot into him. which I think was still only dice -3 on the Mammoth or something like that, or it was dice -2 because their armor 20 also. And then I was able to, with the halberd, actually get an electroleap to jump back onto that
one of
those pain givers. So a little moral victory right there. And then we put Athena in harm's way. Basically, it turns out if I don't get these guys gone, I'm pretty sure Athena's going to die. So we go ahead and we start off with making sure that Athena's within 6 inches of both of the heavies, because then she can utilize her jackhammer. She spent 1 focus to upkeep the electrify for the turn, so she has 5 left for the turn. My feat is up now, so I do get that additional die on my attack and damage rolls, dropping the lowest of them. And then we go ahead and just kind of have a conversation back and forth about where I need to prioritize my jackhammers to make sure stuff happens. And then we basically decided out, hey, it needs to be the Hydra because the dice are pretty good, and then I rolled like a 3 on the damage. And we go ahead and keep kicking into it. So then I roll really well.
Boxcars.
Boxcars on that. I hit again, and then I roll another 10, and they were able to remove the Hydra with 2 focus left on Athena. I was surprised.
That jackhammer really goes through.
I was surprised at that, and I was like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and make this keep going. After a short conversation of, do we think that Malakarn can get to Athena by doing any kind of shenanigans? I think we agreed that he can't get there outside of the fact that he can't see, like with his sidesteps and things like that. So then I do put Infiltrate onto Athena just for habit's sake. The Mammoth's obviously close enough that if it wanted to do anything, it could just put its head back on and just tusk her.
Yeah. Well, and then I also have the Sentry Duty card, which I think
it ignores the stealth anyway. So I do some other measurements because, like, Alexia could charge up in there, but after I would have to give her Pathfinder for the turn, and it didn't really seem worthwhile in this particular scenario. So we did do the measure out. I can give Desperate Pace to the Storm Guard, which charge alongside there because they did have that line of sight. And they charge into the Mammoth here. Obviously, the dice is a little bit weaker here in the sense of I think it was dice -5 on the charges. But with Athena's feat, it's actually able to help out. I'm still getting like 2 or 3 damage in per hit. And then we go ahead for the Storm Lances over here. They are within charge distance of the Mammoth, so they go ahead and get their charge over here. And everybody was within the Athena feat. Cavalry charges ensued, 4 dice, dropping the lowest for attack and damage rolls. And then I think these ones were dice off of 4. And then we're rolling pretty well. So that's the second hit. Going for gunshots as well, because even with rolling the additional dice, it can help out quite a bit for all of this stuff. And I start to so I start to sweat a little bit because I get down to the very last model, and I think I got him to the box almost. And I'm able to remove the Mammoth from the table. We then go ahead and look at the table for a second, and I remember Repo again. And I get those 3-inch movements. I kind of set myself around, kind of get in the way of a couple people. Make sure to stick within the wall because of making sure to still contest on scenario. I run my sailors that were behind the obstruction right there to get them out into the open, to get them into the fight. And then I have my... Let's see, who's left here? I have my 2 light jacks left, who just kind of get into place to protect Alexia, just in case, again, or not Alexia, Athena. And then we move up to the objective, have a conversation. I'm like, oh, and we're like, wait, it has to be a solo. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll deal with that next turn.
Yeah.
And I go ahead and run my other unit to the wall here, because the flag marked objectives only need 2 models contesting it to control it. So I use my Tempest Sailors for the wall back here, and I pass turn.
Yep. So at this point, the two colossals I had on the table, which in my head I thought there's no way he can chew through.
And my feet is still up for you.
He it seemed like he made light work of it. It didn't seem, like I feel like he could have gotten more bodies on him if he needed to.
I didn't think I could either.
He didn't need to. He managed to get him out. And so at this point, I was just fighting for my life out here, just trying to make any move I could. So we brought in this, whatever that unit is, the guy on the horse, just as like a proxy for Malik Karn, just to see, just to see what that would look like, how I move him. Just seeing what I can actually clear out.
Oh, yeah, so you can proxy base it.
Thinking if I place it in the middle there, it's Malik Karn, he can normally get some damage through and maybe swipe out, a majority of those guys. And then, just brainstorming what to do over near where my flag is, where he's got all his guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Thinking if I could, get a gladiator in there, see if I can maybe get Xerxis up in there, anything I could. I was just in full damage control mode at this point.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversation about the placement of how, especially the pain givers.
The pain givers in particular, yeah.
Yeah, because they started to get into a sense of, she wanted to get Xerxis out there, too, because he needed to put in work. Yeah. He couldn't just stay behind anymore.
Yep.
But then we found out that, the pain givers are in the way.
Yeah, so I needed to then figure out how to move the pain givers to still be able to enrage the Titan if I need to, but then, be close enough for that, but not in Xerxes' way. And then over here, I just moved the pain givers up just to get near the wall, just so he won't immediately score that once when I pass the turn here. I knew they wouldn't really get anything done, but they just needed to be up in his grill for a second. Essentially as a sacrificial lamb. I think I moved up the middle one, placed the other one forward, and then the back one, I think I used him to enrage Malik Karn, giving +2 on the melee attacks.
Yep.
Just to get a little bit more buff where I can, because a power 16 weapon master sounds a lot better.
Oh, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And then I think this is when we really start looking at that side, and you're going to see these pain givers dance all around.
It was a good dance.
Finally figured out a way to figure it out. Yeah, it was really nice, just talking back and forth of how could this actually work. I just need to stay engaged and just figure out how we can open up lanes.
Yeah, because we had to make the comment right there. As soon as he went in the center there, I was like, if he leaves, then he doesn't get one of his actions, which you kind of felt needed. All the actions you can get out of these guys because of needing to enrage or do whatever you needed to do.
Yep.
So that's where the dance began.
And so yeah, I feel like we moved him, reset him like 10 times.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to figure out what this could possibly look like. And in real time, I don't know how long this was, but boy, it felt like 30 minutes of just this.
I think we spent a good 5 minutes on this alone. Because it was well, what if they touch? Well, what if they do this? Well, what if they're over here? Well, they got to be over there because then the mammoth can't get through. But then, and then we get the proxy base back out again. He's like, nope, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because of how the angles of the charging and all the stuff, and it's all of a sudden.
I don't think anyone has ever workshopped 2 pain givers as much as we have. And that's what it would look like if I repositioned that direction. Just,
Yes. Right, and he's like, okay, well, if I use hit and run, if I use the hit and run card over here, then I'll go this way.
Yep.
And then if I do that, it'll happen over here. And then it was really fun just kind of going back and forth with it, because we're going to make this work, damn it. We're going to do it together.
Yeah, no, I feel like that was a lot of this game. A lot of this was we definitely, at the end of the day, whenever you play a game, you want it to be a good game, and you want to have fun. You don't just, sometimes it's nice to, I guess, be in a hyper-competitive setting and be like, oh, I'm just going to go kill him, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it's fun sitting down and getting into the meat of a game like this and being like, no, we're going to workshop this,
Right. You want to have a good game with your opponent, and you don't want to win on some technicality of like, well, that mammoth can't make any attacks because the pain giver's in the way. Like that's no fun for anyone.
Right. And so I think that's the final resting place of those pain givers. I think I managed to keep them out on the back side of the table there, on the top side of the table. I was able to enrage the Titan, and then I used the repo on the one furthest to the left there and moved him back into position where he is now. And that was enough to open up the lane for the Titan. And even with like the -2, because I don't think I put Titan's Animus on him, it would still be enough range. And then right here was me just, really trying my best to get a Kreia to maybe kill something. Because Kreia's really just, in melee, they just suck. They're mat 4, which, like, what are you going to hit, buddy? Like, you can't hit a thing. And then, God forbid they hit, it's only a power 12.
I mean,
so
he did hit,
it was a
to
long
be fair.
shot.
He hit.
He did hit, but he can't really do anything. Or I guess she can't do anything.
They.
And then I'm like, all right,
they.
It's 2023. And then we got a gladiator in there and tried. But then what I realized, being that far up the board, is how Athena's feat affects me.
It's bad.
And honestly, that was soul-crushing, if that's the right term.
That's probably an appropriate term for it, yeah.
I just couldn't land hits, and so I'm boosting, trying to land a hit, and then dropping the highest, and nothing's hitting. So then, I moved Malik Karn up, and honestly, the same thing happened. Like,
yeah.
I think I failed the charge hit.
Yes.
I think I think I might have only gotten 2 hits in that landed coming off of Malik Karn, or maybe 3 out of the 2 initials, and I think I bought 2 more, so I think I had 4, maybe 5 attacks, and I couldn't get anything to stick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Athena's feat, if you're not prepared for it in a certain way, or like maybe not doing like dice changes, like actual just like +1s and +2s, or boosting even farther and things like that, it can be pretty rough. Like rolling a 7 on 3 dice, dropping the highest, is rough.
Yeah. And then there, I just moved Xerxis up, killed off one of the pony boys that was left, and he has sprint, so after I kill a model at the end of activation, I get to make a full advance. So I then tried to see where I could move him, and because he was so close to the Titan and everything, and the wall being there, I couldn't really get him in a good spot.
Yeah.
So I think I just kind of parked him back there, and hoped for the best, That's really all I could do at this point. Most of my army's gone, and fighting for my life, just hoping for it, and then I passed it on over.
Yep. So, there was no scoring on that previous turn, at the end of your turn there. I did have 1 on the end of my turn before you just went. So right now we're at 1-0. I go ahead and I look at this, and I'm basically boiling down, like, kind of the whole plan is that as long as the 2 heavies in the side of the board, in the middle of the board there, are dropped, I feel like I can basically say that I can close out the game. So, Malakarn's got to go, and then the Titan's got to go. And then I just got to keep up the scenario pressure for the whole thing. So, we definitely go ahead and start looking around at everything and everybody. I make sure to see if I can get that light out there to go ahead and cause a spray. But primarily to get out of the way, because right behind him now is the objective that I wanted to get one of my solos onto, so that I can go ahead and also score that objective there. But again, I need, I think at least Malakarn to get out of the way. He may have been just in range to contest it, but he's got to get dropped anyway, because then it's just going to cause a problem. So we go ahead with the very specific tiptoe widget run to go ahead and get him onto that objective there, so that he is now controlling it, as long as there's no other models within range of it. So
I gave $1 to Andy.
Oh, he needed water.
Yeah.
So had to take care of him. So go ahead with the mechanics next. From here, again, it's very easy for them to go ahead and get heavies loaded up to be prepared and ready to take care of other models. So I am able to load up and we just loaded everybody up with focus, making sure that heavy there with electrify has its the assets that it needs, because again, being a power 20 hammer is really nice. Now from here, I do make try to make a big brain play here, in that Malakarn does not engage my heavy, and because of where I can kind of get to with that heavy, I'm really looking at doing a tremor on these two, because I can go ahead and charge and then use my star attack and tremor. And the nice thing about the tremor is that as long as I roll that nice hit roll, every model within 2 of the striker is knocked down, as long as they can be knocked down. So
it's so powerful.
It's so good. So we go ahead and we boost it just to make sure, because I don't want to miss on some kind of mini double ones out of nowhere. So we go ahead and we verify the rule to make sure that it's within range of either the striker or the model that was actually hit, and it is the striker. So we go ahead and knock down Malakarn and the Titan, which is huge in the sense of now I don't have to worry about my hit rolls. As long as I'm getting there and charging and doing whatever, we're just rolling the damage. So then I go ahead and use that.
I guess they're not stopping engagement.
Correct. So now we can go make random charges, do all these things. And then from there, we go ahead and get the Storm Guard. They are going to go ahead and make their charges onto the guy there. So... the previous turn, Alexia put one back. That's why there's 4. I was wondering why I put the 4th one there, and that's why. So then we go ahead and make the attacks. On charge, power 15s are pretty good, especially against armor 19, I want to say. Yeah, so they are able to remove, just be under removing Malakarn, I believe. And then I think we go ahead and use a jackhammer from Athena. Nope, that's not what we did. Somebody else attacked, and we go ahead and finish removing Malakarn there. So then, next target is the Titan, to get that big guy removed, because we don't need him just standing up and being a jerk. So,
just being big in your way.
Yes, that's exactly what he does. So my solo did have, on his little run over there, did put up a battle plan for Precision Strike, which does give me Tactician within 10 inches of him. So I go ahead and move charge my my Corsair over here to the Pain Givers, and we go ahead and we start off with a Punchy Spike, which just annihilates him, and then we go ahead and send the spray into that center one. Hitting as well, removing him from the table. Utilizing all the focus, obviously, to go ahead and destroy them. So we move over, and my Tempest Assailers go ahead and make a charge against the Titan. And I'm pretty sure we just go ahead and just have all 3 of them get onto him. And power 14's on the charge, not bad. And then they do have the power 12 shield as well. Which is not as powerful, but it's a really nice control piece in the sense of that because of the repulsor, they can kind of push people away if I need to get them off objectives or anything like that. But that's not what we're going to be utilizing it here for. We just want to try to see if we can spike a damage roll to go ahead and remove that Titan. So we go ahead, make a bunch of attacks, and I don't get to drop the Titan. So I just position myself that I get the other sailors across the wall so that they can kind of leash out farther next turn if I need to, but they're still go ahead and controlling the objective over here for the wall. From here, I did lose 2 of my Storm Lances last round, so I had him just kind of advance the 8 inches around, and again, I had Alexia just bring one of them back. And just kind of a preparatory for next turn that I have the 2 guys there, and then on the following turn after that, as long as I still have them both there, I can bring the 3rd one back. So I switch back over to you, scoring 2 control points on that turn to yours as well.
Yep. And at this point, I'm feeling like everything's a lost cause. I was expecting everything to be dead, so I had to go ahead and I think I made some threshold checks.
And they both passed. I was surprised.
Yeah. They only pass because for some reason, every time I do a battle report, my dice are dog water. They never work. So this was the one time it worked out for me that I have low dice rolls on the channel.
Yep. You're welcome.
So, yeah. So, I know they'll get their activation, they'll get their initials, but, I can't do much else with them. I did end up doing an alright move once I, kind of was able to sit here and think about things. I believe I brought the Pain Givers up in a moment here, and I was like, oh, I can, take some of the fury off of the Titan just to maybe get a couple more hits from there. But through this whole turn, I'm like, just, trying to workshop any way where I could score anything. And, I just saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, here goes Xerxis. It's going to be the end of Xerxis.
I did make a comment that I'm not even going to look at him just because I have the ability to kind of just keep myself up on scenario, and I don't need to kind of focus myself on trying to go after him. But
right.
He's going to do work. Like, he is a tough guy.
Yeah. I had to actively try and stop scenario, try and stop you scoring scenario while also trying to clear stuff out. Once both Colossals were taken off the table in a single turn, that's really, I felt just behind the 8 ball the whole time, just playing catch up, just trying to survive out here. And seeing, what kind of work could get done. So, if you've never seen a Pain Giver try and make a melee attack on someone, here's the first time you'll ever see it.
Hey, I was proud of him.
To charge just to get within 2 inches of the wall, and then repulsor shield ended up pushing me back a little bit, but I was still within 2 of the wall, so I knew he wouldn't be able to score that. And I think at this point, I started trying to activate the Titan, if I remember correctly. And, I knew that whoever that Jack is that you have on him still had Electrify up. So I knew if I hit him, I'd be pushed away, but I'd be pushed into your guys, so I would still be in your engagement, which is just fine. Or, you'd still be in my engagement. So I was able to get some more hits through on you. I'm pretty sure, I was able to land hits, but, I think my damage rolls were non-existent. I think they just weren't hitting right.
You were making comments about how, like, I can hit you for days, but I can't actually do the damage.
Yeah. For the life of me, I could not get damage through. And at this point, I was mad, and I'm like, here comes Big Xerx. He's coming in. He's going to hit something. And I had that Jack hit just enough where I knew that I could get some damage in on it, remove it from the table, and with Sprint, I'd be able to get away. But I think I was also in melee of somebody else, and was like, might as well try and kill that thing too.
Yep, and I think when we actually rolled the whole thing out, you were like, alright, it's a 15 total, and I was like, oh, that's his armor.
Yeah, and then I had to do his last initial, or maybe buy one.
Yeah.
And then I just sprinted him towards towards that objective, just to, try and do something on a scenario.
Yep. So then we go ahead and we get all the points up, and then because of how the new rules work for Steamroller 24, I was already above on 3 security or 3 control points, which did end the game on your turn. Alright, Ryan, that was a great game. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think, that game was very interesting. It was really nice seeing how Athena functions and the spikes you can get on your turn. But, I think what hurt even worse was how it affects me on my turn. You know, like she's really
Sure,
good on your
yeah.
turn, and it really, screws me over a little bit on my turn.
Yeah, it absolutely does. The fact that her feat is kind of double-ended, like I can get a lot of really interesting spikes, and then all of a sudden, like now you're spiking the other direction. It can be rough.
Yeah, and now it would have been very interesting if, let's say, you got your feet first, and then I was on my feet turn going into your feet, because my
absolutely.
feet is added, so I'd be adding another die and dropping the lowest, so I'd be rolling way too many dice.
Hopefully average itself out. Yeah.
Exactly. So, there's not no answer to something like that. There's always an answer to things like that.
Absolutely.
And I honestly really loved this Steamroller packet. What they're doing as far as like how the flags function, where you select that piece of terrain. I think that's really interesting, because one of my biggest complaints is just always seeing those big zones on tables. I just don't like visually how that looks. So it's really cool knowing that this is where the flag's supposed to be. But go ahead, pick something in the area, and that'll be it. It makes the tablescape more dynamic.
I like the customization of that flag specifically. Yeah, I was really enjoying it. The only thing that messes me up is that now it's a completely opposite direction of what like the steamrollers have been in the past, in the sense of like zones this, objectives that, and these. Like the fact that there are different size elements of the scenario and having to relearn that. Like there was plenty of times within our game that I was like, all right, I'm gonna get this objective. They're like, no, you can't touch that one. It has to be the other one across the board. I was like, I know, I keep, and it just kept messing with me. But I enjoy the new dynamic that they kind of create. How did you feel about, because they're actually like placed on the board, you can't land on them? How did it feel with the three big boys?
So playing that many big bases, you're always going to have issues with placement of something regardless. No matter what the objectives are, what scenario you're on, you're always going to have issues with like, you just don't fit places. So going into something like that, I already know that that's going to be a struggle I have, but it honestly didn't really come into effect except for maybe, I think once when I was trying to do a sprint action with Xerxis at the end of his turn, where I was trying to get a good spot for him, but he couldn't really land anywhere. But, I also kind of caused that problem. I had him wedged in there with a Titan, and his options were very limited. So I didn't really have a terrible, issue with that. I think it functioned just fine as far as, as long as when you're going into a game and you're bringing that many huge bases, that that's already going to be something you're going to have to work around.
Sure. So I'm excited to see what else they kind of put out there, because I know that here coming in the future soon, we're gonna have to start getting ready for Nova, and I know that we should have a whole new scenario packet to be practicing for next year.
Yeah, I'm just excited for new scenarios. I was really hoping that when they initially released Mark IV, they would have that kind of packet ready. And I remember when they were showing off, we've come up with these scenarios, everyone was kind of just bashing it. And they were like, okay, we're just going to keep the same Steamroller packet that we did in Mark III.
Yeah.
And I was just hitting a point where I'm like, man, I'm getting really tired of these scenarios. So it's nice to just have something fresh.
Me too. Yeah, it's a nice breath of fresh air for a whole new scenario packet. That'll be coming in the future. So I'm excited to see all the other stuff that they would have, since, this is the first thing that we kind of seen.
Yeah. And, I definitely think the game could have gone a little differently. I think, I definitely shouldn't have fed you to Colossals right from the jump.
Probably.
I probably could have put up a better scenario fight if I would have staggered and had like different waves instead of just being like, here we go, we're up here now. Because it's really hard for me personally to not be aggressive and think, hey, go on scenario. Because I think in this Steamroller packet, everyone has a fair chance. And I also love how in the new Steamroller, you're never going to hit that point where you just clock, pass turn, I win. You have to have that score above at the end of your opponent's turn. I think that really adds a different dynamic where it's not as defeating feeling.
Absolutely. I get it completely. Well, again, thank you so much for the game, and can't wait to get another one in with you.
Oh, yeah. I want a grudge match of the exact same armies.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to check out some additional content, including the original video and audio of our battle reports to support the channel, please click our Patreon link in the video description below. If there are any factions, warcasters, or warlocks you would like to see on the channel, please let us know in the comments. And as always, see you on the next Tried and True Battle Report.